The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
you're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday night, leap day of leap year, 2000 and what year is this? 2016, February 29th. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get straight to the news. It's been one of those news days. Actually, no, let me back up. I want to talk about I got a chance to sit in on a friend's show today, Nicole Sandler from Radio or Not. And I just want to give a shout out over there to Radio or Not. We had a great conversation. And I want to, if you want a real meaningful conversation on race, Bernie Sanders, erase intersectionality, any of those topics, the difficulty that African Americans and white people have in terms of just communicating, the problem with Bernie bros and the black vote and all of those things. If you want a really in-depth conversation, particularly from my vantage point, then I suggest going over to radioornot.com and having a seat and listening to the entire show was great. But if you take a listen to the last, I would say 30 minutes or so, Nicole, of the show, then that will you will hear the conversation that we had. It is a great conversation, and I think it's a perspective that, well, obviously, I think it's new on the at least on the internet circuit, right? Because it's something that I've never heard, and it's something that I'm giving voice to. So go over to radionet.com, check out Nicole Sandler's. I can never pronounce her last name. I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm horrible with names. Check out her episode from today. Also, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it because I just, I absolutely love Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes, yes. She is coming back. The goddess of progressive radio is coming back. So I want you guys to go over to RandiRhodes.com and take a look at her podcast. She's coming back. She's not on air. She used to be on air nationwide, but progressive radio is a difficult road, especially on terrestrial radio. If you ever feel like I give voice to what you're feeling, Randi, white woman, older, she's older than me, really gave voice to what I was feeling for many years. I would say at least from 2007 on until she retired. So if you want to know where I used to go to get what you guys come to get from me, then go check out Randi Rhodes. Now, don't leave my show. I still need you here every night, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. But there are plenty of hours in the day, and we need as much progressive programming as possible. So we're going to do a lot of cross promotions with other progressive hosts that I think are definitely need to be heard. All right. That being said, let's jump into the news. So I have to start with Donald Trump. And the reality about Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is so successful because of how much attention the media, including internet and progressive hosts, how much attention we give Donald Trump. Now, I'm fully aware of that. However, I think it's worthwhile discussing this latest issue with the KKK, with David Duke from the Ku Klux Klan, along with the broader conversation. Let me stop setting it up and let me just go into it. Okay, by now you already know that on a Sunday interview on CNN, Donald Trump repeatedly declined to reject the endorsement from David Duke. David Duke of the KKK, once a former Grand Dragon or whatever, like white supremacist extraordinaire, right? He's a first-class white supremacist, endorsed Donald Trump's campaign. Donald Trump on Sunday pretended as though he didn't know who David Duke was, even though he in 2008, thanks to John Oliver, I've forgotten about this. In 2008, he tweeted out that David Duke was a racist. And so now he's pretending as though he didn't know who he was, because he knows, Donald Trump knows full well that the David Duke contingency in the Republican Party is a huge portion of his voting base. So he knows he can't piss off the white supremacists, because the white supremacists actually are a part of his big tent. He has some black people in his big tent. I would never understand. Maybe I can understand why, but no, I don't understand why. He has some Mexicans in his tent. You know, he has a big, broad tent, and it looks as though he's going to pummel these people tomorrow on Super Tuesday. And what's most amazing about this is that people are trying to understand how they can bring him down. And this is the only reason I want to talk about Donald Trump, is because he cannot be brought down by the GOP. He is their creation. They have been playing to the Southern strategy dog whistle for a very long time. And now, and hang on, before I even finish that thought, let me back up. It's not just the GOP fault, which is why I'm even mentioning it right now in the context of the Democratic primaries, right? The Democratic Party has something to do with the creation and the success of Donald Trump. I'll get to them in a second. Right now, the GOP playing their Southern racist, Southern strategy, dog whistle racism, strategic racism over the last 40 years, all of their chickens have come home to roost. Yes, they are damned by Donald Trump, and there's nothing they can do to stop him. Donald Trump tomorrow very well may be the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. That's because Donald Trump is the representation of what the Republican Party has become, because of the Republican Party, aided by some things in the Democratic Party, which I'll unpack in a minute. There was a guy, I don't know his name, he had a tweet. He said that, and I retweeted him, or I quoted the tweet, and he said that he's been a lifelong Republican, and the fact that Donald Trump is in the front runner, supported by the KKK, proves or demonstrates that everything the Democrats have been saying about them has been true. And, you know, no kidding, right? There are some things about the Republican Party that are just disgusting. Now, this doesn't mean all Republicans are bad. I have some Republican friends, right? I have some conservative friends that are some of the best people in the world. I would not exchange them for anybody. But that's not the entire base. That is not the entire Republican Party. And the fact that Donald Trump is leading in the polls, and is probably going to be the next nominee, is that I'm sorry, I was reading a note from the producer. So anyway, is indicative of the fact that the Republican Party has essentially lost their minds. And this is the result. Now, the reason I'm mentioning it in the middle of a Democratic primary is because there's another reason Donald Trump is so successful. And that is because America has been fully inoculated against identity politics, at least the right. The identity politics game still has an effect on the left. And I'm going to help you guys get over that shit tonight. Because the identity politics, like I said last week, it's like an antibiotic. When you use it too much and you use it incorrectly, people become immune to it, or the effects of it, it's no longer effective. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And Democrats have played it, and don't get me wrong, it has been beneficial. It has been necessary at times. It has been, it has helped move some issues forward. But as of late, Democrats have been playing an identity politics game that the Republican Party has just been waiting on someone to come around who has zero F's to give and will not cave into identity politics. And that is Donald J. Trump. We see the results of this identity politics game, or we see another version, rather, of this identity politics game being played on Bernie Sanders, where it's all about identity, all about minimizing, erasing any nuance, just really dismissing any complexity in a conversation, and just throwing and hurling the label of racist, or the label of homophobe, or the label of sexist at the feet of someone you just don't agree with. And unfortunately, even people like me, I'm not going to say that I'm above the fray on this. Actually, no, I might be. Because I always, in a conversation, I always try to find the nuance and never play to the intentional obtuseness that is being played right now by the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton supporters attacking Bernie Sanders. Because in order for you to believe for 1 second that Bernie Sanders is racist, you have to ignore all nuance, and you're playing a manipulative identity politics game. And you know what? The Republican Party just doesn't care anymore. They don't care if Donald Trump says something that is racist, because we've been doing it for so long. We've been calling everybody that disagreed with President Obama ever was called by simpleton liberals racist, right? Simpleton liberals who wanted to take advantage of the fact that President Obama was black. They called everyone who disagreed with him racist. And now it just has no effect anymore. Nobody cares if you call them a racist. They've got somebody in Donald Trump who not only can be racist, but be successfully racist. So who the hell cares if you call him a racist? He can still be successful. They've pulled your whole card. And it's not all the Democratic Party fault. It is absolutely, I would say, the majority of the problem falls at the feet of the Republican Party, because they have genuinely been racist. They have genuinely played racist games, right? Some people oppose President Obama just because they were racist, without a doubt, right? But when you have progressives and liberals come in and just muddy the water when there could be a legitimate criticism against President Obama, and you just hurl, oh, you just don't like him because he's a racist, then all of a sudden 8 years later, that has zero effect on the conversation. Identity politics is like an antibiotic. When you use it too much and you use it too often, it becomes ineffective. And then I can take this analogy one step further, right? A super virus comes along. You've been playing games with it for so long, Democrats, that a super virus by the name of Donald J. Trump comes along that cannot be touched or affected or cured by your identity politics game. And so what they do instead, we haven't even gotten to the point where they've gone heads up against Donald Trump. It looks like it's going to be Donald Trump. He may not win Texas, but he's going to win probably every other state, which means he's going to be the nominee. And the Democratic Party is too busy trying to crown Hillary Clinton, using identity politics games, and they're doing like the guns of August. They're going into World War I using outdated modes of attack. You are not going to beat Donald Trump with identity politics. You're going to get into not even an entrenched war. It's not even going to last that long. It's going to go from whatever, August into November, and you're going to be dead on arrival, because you're going to take a person, your best effort is to get somebody like Hillary Clinton and pit them against Donald Trump, thinking that the identity politics is going to carry you, that women are going to come out in droves, and people who are afraid of his racism are going to come out in droves. And you know what? The fact of the matter is, I'm black. I have very distinct identities, and I don't give a damn about your identity politics anymore. What do you think is going to happen to all the white voters in the South? You think they have 1 second of concern about the fact that Donald Trump is a racist? The jig is up. You've overplayed your hand. You've gone so far with it that it is ineffective, and you're the dying pangs. And again, let me reiterate something. There is substance and an effectiveness that identity politics has and should continue to have and should be maintained, to have a unique identity and to make your votes based on that identity. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you overuse it and you manipulate it and you play to it, you create a monster that cannot be affected by your claims of racism or sexism or xenophobia. The only thing, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I know you guys can. I haven't heard him say anything against the LGBTQ community. But hell, he's gone in on the media. He's gone in on handicapped people. He's gone in on everybody. And you know what? He just keeps growing. And here, Democrats are trying to play race and identity politics games against Bernie Sanders, thinking y'all are going to roll up into the general election and get your ass handed to you because you're fighting the wrong fight. Let's take this caller. What the hell? Why not? Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and a question?
Hey, man, it's Bryce. What's going on?
Bryce, my dude, what's happening, man? It's always a pleasure. I should know your number by now, man. What's going on?
Yeah, I know. I'm from Philly, so, but I know a lot of people from Philly do call. But sadly, this is what we have. We have, you know, Trump who wants to get back to a crazy time in America, and he's getting the support, you know, because sadly we have racism and things, and people are still pissed about Obama being first black man in there and all that. And Democrats, they just don't know what to do. I mean, I see the Republicans, they trying to, I guess, slightly fight back, or I guess, and I think he is going to win the nomination because Cruz and Rubio really got a factor. Now, I don't think he's going to win. I do think that if Bernie doesn't get it done, it'll be Hillary. You know, I think the establishment will stop, you know, at the election because, you know, here's the thing. The rest of the world, see America and the establishment, how things are, they're not stupid. They know that if Trump gets in, the world will look at America like, really? Now, you might say, well, they did that with Bush, but Bush wasn't Trump. You know, Bush was, you know, had his things, but, you know, he's not going to build no wall. He's not, you know, that extreme. So it's like, okay, you know, the world can kind of deal with a Bush and use whatever. But Trump, the world is going to be like, America, you're really going to do that. And it'll be real ugly. So in order to keep the cycle and keep, I guess, you know, the establishment or the way things are and not a political revolution, well, what we'll do is we'll keep the little Trump thing going right now, but of course we're not going to let that go down because it'll be real bad. It'll be real ugly. We'll basically be the world's bitch in a bigger way.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the truth. And I'm not saying that the world doesn't like that, but they kind of wants to be on that level. Right. So, you know, the establishment will make sure this doesn't happen now. And if he didn't win, real quick, if he did win, well, obviously America wants to get back to those crazy tunnels. And if so, I got my passport, I'm going.
Hey, I hear Canada is going to make it easier for people to come over there. Bryce, listen, man. Thanks so much for the call, man. Everyone else, you could join the conversation, 857-600-0518. Apparently the chat room, the Google chat room is down. So I want you guys to go to theprogressivearmy.com. And on the top right-hand side, there is a link for, hang on, I'm trying to do something here. There's a link for the Progressive Army live chat. I'll get the exact link for you in a second. What I'm doing is I'm filibustering. You guys can join the conversation, 857-600-0518. I'm actually putting in our live video feed on the chat room over there. So if you go to progressivearmy.com, you can join the conversation and watch the video live there. Or you could just stay right there on YouTube and on Spreaker. But the page is up now, and I'll be tweeting out the new link for you if you want to join the chat room. All right. And you can always send me a tweet at the BPD show. I'm taking this live chat link and I'm going to send it over here to my producers and let them send it out to you guys so that you can join the conversation in the chat room. In the meantime, let's move on with some other news. But let me just reiterate, the game that's being played against Bernie Sanders, that game won't work against Donald Trump if Hillary Clinton wins. And let me segue from my news. I want to just talk about this idea that Hillary Clinton is there's this idea in a lot of circles who they believe that Hillary Clinton is the better candidate against Donald Trump. against the reality of what all the polling data is showing. It's like if the polling data is going to be good enough for you to believe that Hillary Clinton is going to beat him on Super Tuesday, on tomorrow, right? Then surely you have to trust that same polling data when it's in a heads up match against Donald Trump. The only person Hillary Clinton beats is Donald Trump by 1 point. She loses to Rubio, she loses to Cruz, and she loses the most to Kasich. So the best option for the Republican Party would be to somehow get rid of Donald Trump and run John Kasich, and he's likely going to beat her in the general election. But they feel as though they really honestly feel that people give a damn that this is going to be the first woman president and that is enough. No, that is not enough. It is a great thing that I personally am excited over the possibility. I just want it to be the right woman. And I think that's what most people feel. They want it to be the right woman. And the problem is that they feel like this strategy of making people afraid of Donald Trump and afraid of the Republicans, that oh my God, he's the big bad boogeyman, that, you know, all of a sudden we need to forget about everything that we have against Hillary Clinton and just fall in line because Donald Trump is that bad. Do you know that a lot of Bernie supporters genuinely believe that Hillary Clinton is probably just as bad? I don't personally agree with that, but a lot of people I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, I feel like Donald Trump now. I talk to a lot of people, and they feel like that. Guys, give me a second. Let me send this tweet out. Join the chat room here. Boom. Okay. All right. The tweet is gone. Now, producers, y'all can retweet that. Do what you got to do with that. All right. So it's not going to work. It isn't working. And I want to pull up this summary of the Quinnipiac poll. Actually, I'm going to go to Real Clear Politics because they have the average of polls. But the Quinnipiac poll that came out over the weekend shows that Hillary Clinton loses to John Kasich. She loses to Marco Rubio. She loses to Ted Cruz, and she barely beats Donald Trump. She beats Donald Trump by 1 point. That, my friends, is not going to, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough. You cannot go into a general election thinking that you're going to get a victory with a candidate who can only beat somebody like Donald Trump by 1 point. Now I'm showing this, I'm showing a conversation that I was having with a family member. And I guess I might as well talk about it, right? So there's this idea that Hillary Clinton is going to be better against Donald Trump, and that's counter to all of the evidence. Here's the evidence, Quinnipiac right now, and then we'll look at the Real Clear average so we can get a nice estimate, right? But a nice average. But Quinnipiac has Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump by 6 points. Beating Ted Cruz by 10 points, Marco Rubio by 6, and John Kasich by 4. John Kasich is the best candidate for Republicans to run. That's just for free. Hillary Clinton beats Donald Trump by 1 point, loses to Ted Cruz, right? Ted freaking Cruz by 3 points, loses to Marco Rubio by 7, and John Kasich by 8. But still somehow in the minds of a lot of Americans, and this is not, I've heard this from so many places, they honestly believe that Bernie can't win. This is the greatest cognitive dissonance that I've ever seen, because you want Bernie. The polling says that he's going to perform better, yet and still people just go with their gut feeling, the truth. What is it? The truthism, Stephen Colbert, the truthiness. You know, they go with this feeling, this gut feeling that Bernie Sanders is not going to do better when all the evidence shows that he will. And I bring this up because this is something that a lot of people believe. And therefore, they're changing or considering not voting for Bernie Sanders in the primaries because they're afraid that Bernie Sanders won't do good in the general, because they're afraid that he's a socialist and nobody's going to elect a socialist. And we can't risk the chance of Donald Trump getting into office. Remember when I said when you use an attack over and over and over again, people become immune to it, inoculated, or whatever you want to use, right? They have used, the same thing goes for the Republican Party. They have used communism, socialism, Maoism, fascism, Leninism. They've used it ad nauseum. They've used it so much against President Obama that really, who the hell cares if Bernie Sanders is a socialist anymore? What can they say about Bernie Sanders that they haven't said about President Obama ad hominem? Pretty much nothing. So this fear that Bernie Sanders can't win because he's a democratic socialist and America's terrified of socialists is just like this misnomer, this misconception rather, that that Donald Trump won't win because he's a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe. Well, he hasn't shown to be. I don't think he's shown to be a homophobe, but you get the idea, right? It is a misconception because Donald Trump, despite being all of these things, is going to win the nomination because Democrats for the last 10 years at least have been calling everybody a racist. So nobody cares that he's a racist anymore. Likewise, Republicans have been calling every Democrat a socialist, particularly President Obama, a Kenyan foreign socialist, Kenyan Muslim socialist. And now nobody cares. Socialism is the new black. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hello?
Mm-hmm. This is you. You're live.
Justin from Oklahoma City again. I called last week.
Glad to have you, Justin. What's on your mind?
No, I just talking. I went to Bernie Sanders came yesterday, and I stood out there for 5 hours, waited 2 hours for him to talk, and I'm just super excited for Super Tuesday tomorrow.
Yep. Big day. Oh yeah, I'm glad you said that. Let's just put a plug here. Listen. Tomorrow's voting day. It's voting day for me. It's voting day in Texas. It's voting day in 11 states. It's Super Tuesday. Wherever you are, and honestly, whoever you're going to vote for, right? I'm not going to tell you that if you support Hillary Clinton, stay home. I'm not going to tell you that. But whoever you're going to vote for, get out there and go vote on Super Tuesday and make sure that your voice is heard. You got anything else for me, man? We appreciate the call. If not,
well, I have a question. I don't know if this will be relevant, but let's just say, for instance, if Bernie does lose in the primary against Hillary Clinton, and we all know the African American community has overwhelmingly supported her, will this cause like a rift between like white progressives and the black community in the Democratic Party, or
I think
is that a fair question?
No, it's a fair question. It's definitely a fair question. It's a fair question. I think that it shouldn't. I think it's wise if it doesn't. But you can't help how people feel. I will personally, will personally blame the black community if Hillary Clinton gets the nomination. But it's a little different when you have somebody from, same color saying that it's your fault, right? I couldn't do, Sarah Silverstein, what was the comedian, Sarah Silverstein. If I said her name wrong, I'll tweet it out. But anyway, she did a video in 2008, basically saying if Obama loses, it will be because of the Jews, right? That's exactly what she said. She can say that. I can't say that, right? So it's just, good best practices. But I would personally, the case can be legitimately made that the only way Hillary Clinton wins is with the African-American vote. And so that's going to upset some people. But I think more than anything else, we need to just keep pushing the progressive agenda and move us forward. Hey, thanks so much for the call, man. I'm going to grab this next call.
Thank you.
857-600-0518 is the number. The Benjamin Dixon Show. And you can tweet me at the BPD Show. I'm pulling up Real Clear Politics as I get ready for this next caller. Caller, you're live on the air. If you don't mind cutting down your television or your internet, and tell me what's on your mind. Your name, comment, and question.
Is this me?
This is you, Umar from Brooklyn, huh?
This is Umar from Brooklyn, yeah.
My dude, what's going on, man?
What a weekend it's been.
Absolutely crazy.
I don't know where to go first, but I'm beginning to see a lot of the progressives who were trying to hold the line get a little, I don't know, doubtful of things. I hear the line of, I know, I'm sorry, as you could tell from my tweets, I'm still in that real-time thing because I was like, boy, I was glad I'm not in the audience. I would have went at somebody's throat, I swear.
Oh, the real time with Bill Maher?
Okay. Oh, dear goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going to talk about that, but since you mentioned it, I might as well. Go ahead.
Okay. But I had listened to, there's another channel I listen to. She's called The Sane Progressives. She gets like a 10-minute commentary. She's very good at it. And she pointed out something that had occurred to me, but she put it so well that I want to throw it out there. Okay. That We have to get off the savior mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I often bring up the Tea Party is because it's, and I heard the replies and excuses. I don't care if some of them had money. I don't care if they had backing. At first, when they started, they were dismissed by their own party.
Yep.
I remember that clearly, but they held on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe Bernie can win. I wish progressives would stop this line of, well, he needs another state. I'm like, you know how many states are left over?
Yep.
So
the majority,
guys,
right?
Chill. Yeah, could you chill on the because he lost Saturday, it's over. God, I don't know. It's just like it's just so disappointing to hear the
how many
people
people
who
are down,
all fired up. Yeah, that doubt, and I'm like, and it's a movement.
Right.
The revolution is not about just Bernie Sanders.
Thank you.
It's just like the Martin Luther King Malcolm X thing. When those brothers passed away, when JFK passed away, the movements that these people started didn't end with them. They lit the fire in the country.
Right.
All the acts and stuff passed after JFK passed away. All the stuff that people listen to, and these men are still alive today because they are the foundation of a lot of the things that we speak to today. This is a progressive movement. We have to push for Bernie, and we can't look at it as a defeat because Bernie is nipping at Hillary's toes.
Right.
Did we think that would happen last year this time?
No, not at all.
And that's because of Bernie. That's because of us. And then we have to go beyond that. And my point, my reply to her, and I want to put it out there was, there's Bernie. Their DAs are voted in. Congressmen are voted in. The midterms are coming up.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, you're right. And this is the one thing I'm trying to get across to people, and that I can't get them. That not enough people are going to accept Hillary. They know her record. They know her flip-flopping. The gay community is pissed off about her not supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
I am never giving up half the crap that she did when it came to the black community. It was like, oh, so you had all the black mothers last week. He was hugging up with them. But when those guys got shot, where were you?
Absolutely.
When Trayvon Martin was killed and George Zimmerman was acquitted, let's forget the acquittal, when he was treated like he didn't even commit a crime, where were you?
Exactly. Last
year, when Black Lives Matter came to you, you treated them like you swept it under the rug, like you did that young lady, Ashley Williams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where were you? You're here now when you need our vote, but you wasn't there when these incidents happened. And now people like Bill Maher and Eric Dyson are going to tell me, well, Bill Maher.
Whoa, wait a minute. I heard Bill Maher, and I'm trying to. I'm going to go in on him in a second. But what did Michael Eric Dyson say? I must have missed that.
Michael Eric Dyson say it is sexist to blame Hillary Clinton for the mandatory sentencing because her husband did it. And I'm like, mother,
Umar, I got to get you off the line, man. I got to get you off the line for you piss me off, man. I'm going to Twitter. right now to find that tweet. Somebody find that tweet from Michael Eric Dyson and send it to me.
He said it on Bill Maher. He said it live on Bill Maher.
All right. I gotta do a 2-for-1, Umar, man. Listen, I hear you loudly and clearly, and I'm gonna echo what you just said. Thanks so much for the call, man.
Okay.
857-600-0518 is the number to join in. More importantly than anything else is the fact that, well, two things. I'll say the first thing first. First things first. This is so far from over, right? They want to, you have a little token. I'm sorry, I'm going to be a dick to everybody. All right, forget about it. You have little measly peasly journalists writing articles like "This is over for Bernie Sanders after Super Tuesday," right? What's the lady from the Daily Beast who wrote that? Goldie Taylor. You know, little crap pieces of journalism that don't have any substance. This is so far from over. Even if Bernie doesn't get half the states tomorrow, which it looks like he might only get 5, right? So it's so far from over. So there's no reason to have a defeatist attitude about this. So be of good cheer, right? Let me do my inspirational speech for you guys. All right, cheer up. It's going to be fine beyond tomorrow. So don't lose it just because South Carolina went exactly the way everyone knew it was going to go. But here's the thing. Also keep in mind that only 13% of Democrats showed up in South Carolina, period. And so while they're running around talking about how this is such a great victory for Hillary Clinton, in actuality, it is a defeat for Democrats. 13%, like 300,000 out of 3 million, or 2 million, 2.6 million, somewhere around there, showed up to vote total. And they're championing this as a victory for Hillary Clinton. 2.9 million and only 370,000 showed up, 12.5% turnout. This is, and what they want to do is, this is the spin. Oh my God, if you guys would just take 30 seconds and ask yourself, what's the angle? What's the spin? That's the, how do I unpack a lot of the bull? It's because you have to know how to ask the right questions. Whenever I see anything, the first thing I ask is, what's their angle? And once you figure out their angle, you can start unpacking it. The angle on South Carolina, that the spin that they're trying to sell you on South Carolina, is that this is this is reflective of the lack of revolution, or the fact that the turnout is so low is because there is no revolution, right? And they're attacking the concept of Bernie's revolution, when in actuality, if you take out Bernie Sanders's revolution, and if this was a race between Hillary Clinton and Martin O'Malley, do you realize what the turnout would be? That's number one. Number two, do you realize how difficult it is to mobilize people when they are faced with the sense of inevitability of Hillary Clinton and nobody wants her? Sorry, call me. If you want to spin that to be sexist, you could do that. But I'm just talking about in general, the truth about this race is that there is not enough excitement around Hillary Clinton. It's just not. And you could blame this on what are you going to do in November if there is no revolution? Who are you going to blame then when the turnout is record lows? You want to make this an identity election. And Hillary herself has worn that out. Every time she got on television, well, I'll be the first lady. I'll be the first female president. Every time she got on television, does that, it belittles the significance of the moment. The identity politics, people are immune to it now. We're completely unaffected by it. We are not. It has actually contributed to the creation of Donald Trump. All right, so that's number one. And I got way on a tangent there, but the number one is, this is going to go well past tomorrow. So cheer up, chill out. But number two, and this is what I'm saying, is what Umar is saying, this is not defeatist. You have to understand, even if Bernie Sanders doesn't win, that is not a reason to lay down your progressive arms. That is all the more reason for you to dig in and overthrow this establishment, because of all the games they played, because of the games they played with the debates, because of all the manipulations they've done, because of the swift voting they've done against a progressive, right? Against, number one, against how far to the right they have been moving in order to distinguish themselves from Bernie Sanders, from the Progressive Caucus. The point is this. Win or lose, this revolution is full on. This revolution is not stopping. And they're laughing, blaming the turnout in South Carolina on the lack of revolution. What they don't realize is the revolution has already occurred. The revolution is already here, and Democrats aren't taking it anymore. Excuse me, F titles. Progressives, people who identify with the Progressive Caucus, they're not taking it anymore. This caller has been so patient. Let me take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
This is Hungry F. Hyde from Twitter, and I just wanted to talk about Sanders and the Sierra Blanca issue, because whenever you engage a Hillary Clinton supporter on Bernie's record, there is this formulaic conversation that follows.
Yes, it is.
Where you often correct them, and rather than respond to you or what you said, they turn around and commit to quirky logical fallacy, asserting that Sanders did something else that is at odds with what you stated to correct them, until they eventually come to the notorious, well, he wanted to dump nuclear waste on the Hispanic community and voted to take away their rights and blah, 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 blah kind of thing.
Right.
And someone today even compared it to the Flint water crisis, asserting that Sanders did the same exact thing Snyder did. Now, I disagree with that, but before I rail into this, I just kind of wanted to give out some facts on the issue, because a lot of people don't understand understand it. A lot of concerns of the people, if you go through and you like actually read through what they debated and they discussed. For one thing, they were worried about the fact that it was in violation of the La Paz Agreement, which was stating that within 60 miles of the border, they didn't want pollution. The Embassy of Mexico was concerned about it. The Chihuahua State opposed it.
Mm-hmm.
The chair of the Mexican Environmental Committee opposes it. I'm just listing all the negatives right now. I'm going to come back to the everything else says. El Paseo and the Juarez County opposed it. The NAACP was against it. They were also concerned about, obviously, the Rio Grande waterbed, it reaching into there. They were concerned about earthquakes. They're also concerned about, obviously, the contents of the low-level radioactive stuff in it and its half-life. They were worried about the metals dismantled from power plants, the nuclear power plants, the waste, and also, obviously, the anecdotal evidence of it abusing minority communities, which is usually true, so I'll concede to that. So the facts of the case are, is that they didn't use, obviously, the minority communities as, a standard. They're using where there was the most least amount of rainfalls, and the fact that this area has not had an earthquake in history, has never had an earthquake, and even if it did, the site that they had picked could withstand 6.0 on the Richter scale.
All right, let me jump in there. Let me jump in there only because it's difficult to hear all of the points that you're giving over a phone connection. I can hear them, but I don't know how well everyone else is hearing them. That's number one. Number two, I've been contacted by and it's actually on Facebook, and I've been in communications with them by someone who wants to come on and do a full expose on exactly what you're discussing and how they have manipulated the conversation with regard to the nuclear waste or the toxic waste in minority communities. And how they have been manipulating that data to make it look as though it's something that it's not. So what I want to do is, so that what you're saying is important and doesn't get lost, I want to, you can reach out to me on Twitter and we can connect, and I'll connect you with the other guy who wants to come on and do a full expose on that. And we can get that together and pull it out, but with a better connection. I'd have to put you on a Skype call or put you in the Google Hangouts. All right.
Okay.
All right.
I just kind of wanted to get to another point too.
Okay.
So anyways, just like, shortening it out, the community themselves, half the community voted for, they were okay with this. They were going to get like $2 million for state fees, $5 million for the county to spend on whatever they wanted. So ultimately it wasn't a big deal, and you can go look at the facts. But my biggest issue with this is, there's a bunch of other jurisdiction issues, is that, they weren't going to dump the waste into their water system. They weren't going to intentionally poison the people. The site was specifically picked because it had the least amount of chance of polluting the environment. It takes 20,000 to 40,000 years for stuff to seep through the ground into the Rio Grande waterbed. And I really have issues with people bringing this up because they talk about this, and this guy who related it to the Flint water crisis, and it shows a complete lack of understanding about how our waste system works.
Actually, no. Hang on. Let me tell you, it's not that, right? So I wish you had started with that first part, right? That last part first, right? So what you just said is this is what they do. It is formulaic. It requires them to erase any details that are contrary to their narrative. Right? What you just said is pretty much the same thing that the young man who reached out to me, he wants to come on and discuss how this place was strategically picked because it is the best place for this waste, right? But that is not how they want to spin it. They have to spin it to be a negative. So it's not that they don't understand how the system works. It's that they don't want to understand it, and they don't want anyone else to understand it, because if anyone understands the complexities of it, then they'll be like, oh, that's pretty much a non-story. Let's move on to the next thing. That doesn't help you win elections. So it's not that they don't understand, it's that they intentionally are running a smear campaign on everything from him marching with King all the way down to what you're not down as if it's minimized, but to the conversation that you're having right now. It's very intentional. And here's my last thing, and then I have to grab these other calls, is that I want everyone to understand this, is that anytime a candidate has to minimize the conversation and remove as much fact from it as possible, then they are absolutely not the person for you. Because if they give you more information and that more information is going to make you turn away from them, then clearly they are not the person for you. And Hillary Clinton has been running that type of campaign. Every attack on Bernie Sanders is something that has been minimized and reduced to the lowest common denominator. And that is the only way they can have a valid critique. Not a valid, I'm sorry. That's the only way they can have any critique against Bernie Sanders, with the exception of, even the gun arguments, right? Even the NRA votes. If you have to completely remove motive and reason from Bernie Sanders' vote for you to go down the list and say Bernie Sanders is a gun nut. But that's what they do. All right, let me move on to the actually, okay, I'm gonna take this one call and then I have to move on to some other news. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hello, my name is Alejandro, and I just wanted to talk about why I think Donald Trump is more accepting the Republican Party as opposed to Bernie Sanders, and the reason why the Democratic Party seems to be rejecting him. And I think it's mostly due to perspective. I think most Republicans do think their party is in a disastrous state, while most Democrats think that Hillary Clinton is okay, that she's okay, that she's better than what the Republicans have. So I think Bernie Sanders isn't going to get to accomplish much, or he's not going to get to the White House unless we change the Democratic perspective that everything's okay.
My friend, that was very succinct and very, very profound. Thank you so much for that. That is awesome, dude. What's your name again? Alejandro?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for that, man. I have to unpack that. That is brilliant, right? It's very simple. Republicans are gravitating towards Donald Trump because they realize their establishment is crap. Democrats still think that there's some virtue left in the Democratic establishment, and therefore they are pushing and doing everything they can to go to Hillary Clinton. Wow. Simple as that. I think I agree with that. I think I agree with that 100%. Let me grab another piece of news here, and so we can make sure I cover all of my so I talked about Trump, Sanders, and endorsements. Oh, I gotta talk about these endorsements, right? All right. So I'll start with the good news and then the bad news. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, she resigned over the weekend from the vice chair position of the DNC in order to support Bernie Sanders. This is a great endorsement. Number one, she's a veteran. She has foreign policy credentials. She's coming on board as a very high profile endorsement, breaking away from the DNC. There's a whole lot to this story, but of course you can read about all the other things. Let me tell you why it stands out to me. I respect a person who is not going to use their position to manipulate. They're just going to use their reputation in order to stand behind somebody they like. Case in point, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She is not going to come out and say, I support Hillary, because she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants to maintain her chair position. She wants to use that chair position in order to influence the election. And she wants to stay in good with Hillary Clinton. She does not have the wherewithal to step down and show her true support for Hillary Clinton and let somebody who is absolutely, or at least at a minimum, unbiased be in that position. And we see the fruits. I would love, let me finish one thought. We see the fruits of her biasness in how this election is turning out with how many debates, and then we're trying to fill it in with a bunch of town halls, right? But she cut the debate schedule down to 6, and I think they added one more for MSNBC, maybe 2 more, but still nowhere near what we had in 2008 when Hillary Clinton crashed and burned. And that's by virtue of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which reminds me, Tim Cavanova, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Guys, I'm horrible with last names. If I said his name wrong, charge it to my head and not my heart. Let's see. Tim from Miramar, Florida. He should be coming on the air. Tim Canova. I was so far off. Tim Canova, he's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He should be on the show, if not this week, but next week. So you guys send him a tweet and remind, hey, make sure you get on the Dixon show. But anyway, I respect this congresswoman, who's stepping down from her position because she's outright coming to support. Yeah, that's coming, David. Supporting Bernie Sanders. I just have so much more respect for people who are willing to put their name and reputation and their future on the line to support somebody they believe in, versus all of these people who are pretending not to endorse and support Hillary Clinton, but they're using their platforms to tip the scale in favor of Hillary Clinton. You see this with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You see this with a host of Democratic officials who've not come out yet to support Hillary Clinton, but they're doing all they can to tip the scales in her favor. You see this the most in the media, and you see it the most disgustingly in the black media. Let's dispel with this notion, Marco Rubio's famous last words, I wish. Let's dispel with the myth that attacking Bernie Sanders is not equivalent to supporting Hillary Clinton. You do not have to attack, you do not have to endorse Hillary Clinton in order to help her win. All you have to do is attack Bernie Sanders. And that's what you have more people in the media doing than not. That's what you have MSNBC doing all day long. Chris Matthews, now Rachel Maddow has joined in the bandwagon. You have all these people who won't put their name and their position and their status and their reputation behind Hillary Clinton. But what they do is try to present themselves as being unbiased, and they attack Bernie Sanders. Meanwhile, insulting our intelligence as if we don't know better. There's a whole group, there's a whole litany of black media elite. And that's just my pet peeve. Sorry, guys. I have something against the black media elite because they particularly are stifling a conversation that's beneficial to the average black American who 31% are in poverty. They're stopping this conversation on income inequality because they want to maintain their relationship with the establishment. So I have a big problem with that when you don't put your name and your reputation to support someone, but yet you're using your influence to attack someone that would be beneficial to your community. And so that's what stands out the most to me about the Congresswoman, excuse me, guys, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who put her name, reputation on the line to support someone she believed in. And you have these little how can I describe these people? You have people who have like that much influence on the internet, particularly Twitter, who at one time carried some influence, and then I came along because I don't have any F's to give. But you have these little measly peasly accounts who are now saying things along the lines of she once was a rising star, but she no longer is because she's endorsed, and no one, she's ruined her career because she's endorsed Bernie Sanders. Because she's standing behind a person she believes in. And because she did not endorse Hillary Clinton, that all of a sudden now she is not worthy. She's no longer trustworthy. She's no longer going to have a future. I tell you what, I actually like that. I like a person who's willing to buck the system to stand behind someone they believe in to the detriment of their own political future, because they're standing on values versus opportunism, which makes me trust them more. Which brings me to the bad news. It is Super Tuesday in about 2 hours. And the political crush, the political love of my life, politically, I have a beautiful wife, but the political crush that I have has let me down. As it stands now, Elizabeth Warren has not endorsed Bernie Sanders, and her state, our state, Massachusetts, votes tomorrow. And I don't think even if she endorsed first thing in the morning, I don't think there's going to be enough news cycle time to make it effective. And there's so many, everything that I said positively about the Congresswoman Gabbard, everything I said positively about her, I now have to say negatively about Elizabeth Warren. Now, mind you, she's her own person. She can do whatever the hell she wants to do, right? But I also have the right to give commentary on the fact that she hasn't done the progressive thing to do. And because she is riding on the success of her progressive credentials, right? She's riding on the success of all the people around America who look at her as the tip of the spear of progressivism, second only to Bernie Sanders. Because she benefits off this progressivism, it hurts Maybe. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? I don't know if it hurt. Not much hurts me anymore. Not much surprises me anymore. I don't know what I'm feeling. I just feel like talking about it. So whatever it feels, I don't know what it feels like, but it's disappointing to say the least, because you had hope in her. Not so much it wasn't about just her helping Bernie get over the hump. It's about what kind of backbone do you really have, Elizabeth Warren? Do you realize, Liz, can I call you Liz for a second, just to make it easier? No, I'll call you Senator Warren. Senator Warren, do you realize that right now, today, you yourself could be the nominee? As of tomorrow, you could be the nominee, but you made your decision not to run, and that's your business, right? No one's going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. But now you're not endorsing, which is consistent with the decision to not run. When anybody with a reasonable grasp on the direction of American politics on the left would realize it was time for a woman and it was time for a progressive. Therefore, it was time for a progressive woman. Hillary Clinton has 1 out of 2. It was your year. But you're not endorsing Bernie Sanders in time. It's just kind of, you can endorse him next week all you want, but it's not your state vote. Our state votes tomorrow, right? And so the lack of her endorsing Bernie Sanders really is consistent with her decision not to run for president herself. And I read a tweet by Jamel Bowie of whatever outlet he's with, whatever outfit with, and essentially he said, he's surprised that people expect Senator Warren to put her potential senatorial leadership position on the line in order to rally progressives. Well, shit. Excuse us for expecting or hoping that a person who's standing on progressive values would put those values above their personal political well-being. I mean, where are those leaders? Because if you don't risk anything, if you don't gamble something, then you're not going to ever get anything, right? If you don't gamble, she could have easily gambled and ran for president, pissed off Hillary a little bit. Yeah, but if she didn't win, then she could have turned around and endorsed Hillary later, right? That could have been the game. That's a standard game. Martin O'Malley has raised his profile, right? Martin O'Malley has raised his profile enough to get pretty much what he wants. If he, no, he didn't have enough percentage. Never mind. He has to run at least 2 more times before he can get what he wants. But still, Elizabeth Warren could have gotten anything she wanted, even if she lost. So it would have been politically advantageous. But where are the leaders who are not looking for a political advantage? They're looking simply to stand on their values and stand on what they believe, even to the detriment of their career, as if she cannot walk out of the Senate today and go and get a $10 million a year speaking circuit without going to Goldman Sachs. All right. I'm disappointed in Elizabeth Warren, but she has her life to live and she has to do what's best for her. I get it. But at least Grayson from Florida, at least he endorsed Bernie Sanders. So that's on the good news. Former congressman, or I forget if he ever made it back in. I know he was beaten around 2012. He got beat. How do you spell it? Alan, A-L-A-N, Alan Grayson. I'm trying to see his district. But anyway, Alan Grayson of Florida, he has endorsed Bernie Sanders. I'm a little squeamish about his endorsement because he's been showing some signs of anti-progressivism. But hey, it's another endorsement. It's cool with me. Let me take this caller who's been patient for 12 minutes on the line. 510. Thanks for your patience. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hi, Benjamin. It's Bobby.
Bobby,
and I always agree with you.
I always enjoy your calls, Bobby.
You've got one of the best shows I've ever seen. I mean, and I listen to the Young Turks and I listen to like Sam Cedar, but wow, you and Noah, I think it's Darius.
Darius Solomon.
Amazing stuff.
Thanks, man.
Solomon. I think you're absolutely right with Elizabeth Warren, because here's the thing, right? We don't have a democracy anymore. We don't, Benjamin. And I'll say this. the DNC put up a bunch of losers. Webb and Chafee, that was our choice. The Republicans had 20 or 30 candidates, right? They had an Indian American. They had maybe 2 Indian American. I mean, they had so many people. They had the whole, right? They had a woman running.
Yep.
It was an insult to the base of the Democratic Party, especially coming off Barack Obama, President Obama, to have no one of color on that. And Lincoln Chafee and Jim Webb.
God. Dude,
how the heck did that happen?
Like, who
how
put
did
money
that happen?
behind
They
them?
put no one up.
Who put money behind them? I'm like, who wasted $1 million to get them on the ballot? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was everyone else scared off? Now the thing is with Warren, right? Look, Bernie Sanders raised $40 million last month. This month he doubled the amount he raised. This is not a small movement. This is not pocket change. He's not fringe. And I keep on saying this to people I know. It's not about Bernie Sanders. It's saying this is a man who has been fighting for the middle class for 40 years, right? More than that.
Right on.
Doesn't have corporate money, isn't worth $100 million. He's not willing to stand up to the banks, the media, the Democratic establishment, and the Republican establishment.
Right.
This is unbelievable, and it's unprecedented. So you could say there'll be another progressive that steps up, but how many progressives haven't been sullied by corporate money? That's rare, I think, that you find that.
Right.
So you look at someone like Hillary Clinton, right? She's taken $150 million in personal money from multinational corporations, right?
Yep.
From the pharmaceuticals, from the medical insurance industry. It's not just the banks.
Right.
That is who she represents. Now, I heard a speech from her just recently, and she said, you got to stop asking us for free stuff. And I'm like, who are you? What kind of talking point is that? That's a Republican talking point. She's going to talk about the debt next or the deficit. When you're worth $150 million, when we can spend, I don't know how many trillions on, Homeland Security and foreign adventurism, but you can't spend any money. I think these stats you may have to double check, but I think in the African American community, 40-something% of children are in poverty. And in the Caucasian community, it's 30-something% of American children. When Bernie Sanders says we have more children in poverty than any other country in the world, industrialized country, that's not a fact. He's not stretching the truth. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
We can't even take care of our own, but it's all about enriching the billionaire class, right? So that they were already worth trillions, and now they're worth even more trillions combined. I fear that this is becoming irreversible. What's happening right now, and the Democratic Party only putting up 5 people. 5 people.
5 people.
Bernie Sanders was never supposed to catch fire, right? That's an insult.
I agree with you 100%, man. Thanks so much for the call. It's always a pleasure when you call in. I agree with you 100%. It's an insult to. This was the most pathetic group. Save, you only had 2 dynamic people in this group, right? Like or hate her, Hillary Clinton is dynamic. Bernie Sanders is dynamic. Martin O'Malley, God, did this dude ever let me down? Because when I heard him speak in 2012, when I first ran into him about 2008, I first heard of Martin O'Malley. I was like, okay, let me keep my eye on him. Same time I was keeping my eye on another guy who let me down, former Governor Deval Patrick of Massachusetts. He let me down. I'll tell you why in a second. But I saw the 2 of them and I'm like, okay, that's the future of the Democratic Party right there. Let's keep an eye on those 2 guys right there. Both of them have seriously let me down. I mean, they made me look like I have absolutely no judgment whatsoever, because you have one who gets on the stage in 2012 and starts talking about General Washington as he crosses the Potomac and trying to make such a dramatic speech, Martin O'Malley, that he fell flat on his face. He's been a political lame. I was going to say loser. I didn't want to be so rude. He's been politically lame ever since, right? And so he was not a dynamic character on the stage. He was getting there, and he can get there, right? But he wasn't. The Democratic Party put up 5 people. 3 of the 5 were whack. And I don't understand who put money behind them. Like, shit, send us $1 million and watch what the hell we do with it. But anyway, and we only had 2 people really to choose from, which is Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And that's an indictment against not progressives, but against the Democratic establishment. That's the way they wanted it. They're scaring off everybody they could, when this could have easily been a season to energize, right? To energize the base. And they don't want that, because the more people, there is a correlation between the turnout and the performance of Hillary Clinton but it's not what you think. There's an inverse correlation between the turnout and Hillary Clinton's performance. In other words, the more people who show up, the worse Hillary Clinton does. There is a direct correlation between Bernie Sanders' performance and voter turnout. The more people who turn out, the better Bernie Sanders does. Which one do you think is better for democracy? 202. This is my boy Solomon.
Hey, it's me.
Solomon, what's going on, man? I could have sent you the link to join the room, but what's on your mind, man?
My bad. I wanted to talk about what you're talking about, endorsements and disappointments. It's a good theme. I'm not quite satisfied yet with your answer on Elizabeth Warren because I think there's something missing. But I do want to talk about.
Wait a minute, who gave you? I'm not bringing you on to be a co-host to bust my chops every single time you call in, man. Go ahead. What did I do wrong with Hillary? Not Hillary, but Warren. Where did I go wrong with Warren? Go ahead.
The first one to say I don't want to hit on Martin O'Malley too much because he just endorsed John Fetterman, the Bernie crap running for Senate in Pennsylvania, so he might endorse Bernie soon.
Okay.
So I don't want to hit him too much, but just other
He's got potential, just not right now.
Huh?
He's got potential, but just not right now, or even in 4 years.
Yeah,
he needs some more gray hairs.
He's young. He's got time. But the lineup for the Democrats this year, this cycle, there are some promising candidates. Tulsi Gabbard was one I've been looking at a lot. A lot of them disappointed me before the second cycle, but besides Tulsi, all of them have disappointed me. People like the Castro brothers, which I agree with Sam Cedar, were like they're okay progressives, but I do think both of them are kind of overrated in terms of their ability to draw voters. Like they're not very charismatic. Cory Booker, I talked with the Human Support on Twitter a lot. He's been a massive disappointment for me. It's been really just what's happened to him is very sad. But the fact that regardless of that, they still could have made decent candidates.
Oh, listen. Hold that thought, because I totally didn't say why I was disappointed in Deval Patrick. I've got a clip up here. You guys go back in Spreaker. Go to Spreaker.com/The Benjamin Dixon Show, and I want you to go all the way back to like before even my very first episode. And I did a clip on damn proud to be a liberal, and I use a clip of Deval Patrick from the 2012 convention, and Deval Patrick was so dynamic. I mean, he would make you proud to be a progressive, even if we were in a red scare with McCarthy, right? It didn't matter. Deval Patrick had that fire that could have energized this election. But you guys know what he did instead? And Deval, I love you. I really want you to come on my show. He went and worked for Bain Capital. He left the governor seat in here in Massachusetts, and he's working for Bain Capital, which pretty much is the death knell in terms of progressivism and the Democratic Party. So he pretty much is saying that he's never going to run for office ever again. Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just the candidates, the young generation of candidates, progressive or just moderate Democrats. They all got swept under the rug by Clintonism, and it's why I really want Clintonism to go away and these Clinton giants, these titans, to stop sweeping up all the attention. Is that instead of building a better Democratic coalition for the 21st century, we're stuck with a repeat. I don't want to call them artifacts as an old, but like pieces from the late 20th century Democratic Party forcing themselves in now, and now instead of running, all these guys are just endorsing this machine from the past. And it's annoying that their need to run just to run and just to be in the White House, because I still believe that's the main reason Hillary Clinton is running and why Bill is supporting. I think they just really like having that central power, and they'll extend their power beyond the White House even longer. And that them all just running with them and not running against them and creating a competitive market for candidates. Now, if they had all run, the Democrat, I think turnout would be a lot higher. If Bernie had run, if Elizabeth Warren had run, if some of the younger Democrats had won, we'd have that larger electorate that would probably be beating the Republican turnout right now, even with this record turnout. But specifically about Elizabeth Warren, the thing that I think is missing from what you said is that I do tease you a lot about your love for Elizabeth Warren, as she's been kind of disappointing.
I don't know. She just reminds me of my third grade teacher, man. So anyway, go ahead.
It's the fact that I do want to just make sure that you saw that reason for disappointment, but I also wanted you maybe have some sort of explanation, like what her mindset is.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, right? So Dave Odell on Twitter just tweeted me, and he said to cut Senator Warren some slack for not endorsing Bernie Sanders, because we may be underestimating the devastation that Clinton's machine could do. And that's the only thing I can really think of, right? That's the reason she didn't run for president. But here's the problem. Here's the thing, right? I don't think people realize where we are in America. People want somebody who doesn't give a shit and will fight against the machine, even if they may lose. And that's what Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump has run headlong against an entire establishment. Mind you, he had money to do it, right? There's a big difference. But so do progressives. But anyway, we don't want somebody who's going to be afraid of a fight. We want people who's going to run headlong into a fight. And if we see somebody brave enough to do that, people would rally behind her. So, to this question of the damage that the Clinton machine can do, to me, just in my world, that's all the more reason for me to run up on them. I want the biggest. I want the baddest. I want the person who everyone else is afraid of. Send me your bullies. Send me your Goliaths. Send me your assholes, and I will show you what can be done with them. And that's what people are looking for. And we needed Elizabeth Warren to do that. And Bernie Sanders is the only one who had enough hubris to do that. So outside of her being afraid of the Clinton machine, or not afraid, but intimidated by the Clinton machine, and outside of her trying to maintain her position in the Senate, I honestly cannot give you a valid justification as to why she would not endorse Bernie, unless she just doesn't believe in him. There's that possibility too.
There's been leaks from the staff that the message coming out of her is that she's still not convinced he can win in November. Like, that's what she says, not the primary. She's afraid that progressivism isn't electable right now in the general, which, if that's true, that's just a whole another level of bewilderment on my part.
But you know what that means? You know what that means for everyone. I swear to God, for everyone who's saying they just don't know if progressivism can win in November. Remember, you said that when we come through in 2 years and we start wiping the floor with everybody who did not do right by progressivism.
Mm-hmm. And it's the other thing is, the Clintons don't like her already. They've hated her since the bankruptcy thing, where she outed Hillary Clinton on being corrupt in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Bill, even after that, for a 2012 Senate run, Bill refused to do any speech. Even the DNC asked, he refused to support her campaign in any way. They asked him if he could do speeches, if he could campaign with her in Massachusetts, and Bill absolutely refused. So there's still black blood. And in a Hillary Clinton administration, to think that Elizabeth Warren wouldn't already be vehemently disagreeing with half the stuff the administration does. Yeah. Why is she worried about upsetting them?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
She must not think progressives can win.
Absolutely.
Because the Clintons being mad at you she's going to disagree with them constantly if they're in the White House. So why does she care if they disagree with her?
Thank you, Solomon. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. And I've got to grab a couple other calls, man. Appreciate it. If you want to join the room, actually, I'm getting ready to end. So tomorrow. All right. Thanks, dude. All right. I absolutely agree. Here's the thing. You cannot, who was okay. I'm using me as an example. You can't be beholden to people. Strike that. Perfect example. Melissa Harris Perry. I can get this in here. Perfect example of why you cannot allow people to be your path to promotion. You cannot. It doesn't work, because people are only going to use you as much as they need you. And as soon as you step out of line, they no longer need you. And guess what? It's their platform. Your option is to overthrow their platform and build your own. Now, I'm going to talk about Elizabeth Warren a little bit more, and Melissa Harris Perry in the same exact vein. Melissa Harris Perry has walked away from MSNBC. I like Melissa Harris Perry. Sometimes I don't like her, but most of the time, I would say 8 times out of 10, 7, I give myself a C. I have a C rating with Melissa Harris Perry. But I just like nerdy intellectual conversations, and she usually did a deep dive. I actually like Chris Hayes on Saturday when he was doing Up, because it was much more intellectually robust. But that's besides the point. The point is, is that Melissa Harris Perry is gone from MSNBC, and she went out with a bang. She went out with, I am not your mammy. I'm not your little brown haired doll, your brown doll. You're not going to do me like this. You know what? Hey, you know, as long as you, if you're going to quit, then you might as well quit in style. I'm all about that. I'm all about that. If I'm going to quit, I'm going to boom. I'm going to drop the mic when I leave. So I get it. But here's the problem. You don't own MSNBC. MSNBC technically doesn't owe you anything, right? They gave you, and if you want better commentary on this, go check out my girl Yvette Carnell over on Your Black World. She nailed this. MSNBC did not have to hire you. MSNBC does not have to put you on anytime that they don't want to put you on. MSNBC doesn't have to do anything for you because it's their platform, and they get to dictate the terms of your appearances on their platform, just like you have every right to walk away, Melissa Harris. And I love the, you know, you did it. Boom, you walked away. But the problem is, if you're waiting on something that is fully established to be your channel to success, then you're going to always be beholden to them. Just like Elizabeth Warren and the Clintons. If Elizabeth Warren is sitting around waiting on the Clintons, on Bill Clinton to come do a speech for her in order for her to be successful, then she's already lost. If she's waiting around for a nod from the Clintons to get anything in 2006, 17 and beyond, then she's already lost, because there are so many people who are in line waiting for handouts, from political handouts from the Clintons. That's number one. But number two, if you ever say something contrary to them, then you're out of the club. I would much rather say, you know what? I think you're an asshole, and I think you're not deserving of your platform. So I'm going to take the long route, and I'm going to help tear your shit down. And it's going to become my platform. So, and that's exactly what I'm doing in my own little way, in my own little microcosm. You go about it your own way. It might take you longer. You may never get there, but you know what? You do have the satisfaction of knowing you stood true to what you believed, and you didn't have to cater to someone else's idiosyncrasies. You didn't have to cater to their little desires. You didn't have to cater to their dishonesty. You don't have to cater to their lack of moral, of morality, their lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Integrity. You don't have to cater to their lack of integrity. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I have to sacrifice my integrity or sacrifice my voice and not speak out about something that I believe in order to protect my job. I don't ever want to have to do that, because I did that. I did that years ago on a job that I worked for a very long time. I should have said things early on. I could have fixed the problem early on, but because of the security of my job, I just kept my mouth shut miserably for 10 years. Never doing that again. Definitely won't do that in politics. And if Elizabeth Warren is sacrificing her progressive voice for the sake of opportunity in the Democratic Party, she's already lost. When she doesn't realize, just get out of the system. And there are 4 million individual contributions that are ready to get behind you. I don't know how much more clearly you can make that, but people aren't waiting for you to come up the ranks anymore. People are waiting for you to tear those ranks apart and put it back together the way it should have always been. Warren, Melissa Harris Perry, you know, for 8 years, or not 8 years, but for many years that you've been on MSNBC, you know, you really should have been building your own platform. I know you had a no compete clause, but still, you could have been building your platform simultaneously in a different format where it didn't fall underneath the no compete clause. Like Jank, you know, you have to have autonomy. You have to have enough autonomy to control your voice and not be controlled by a paycheck or by political opportunism. All right, caller, you might very well be my last call of the night. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Kristen?
Yep, this is you. You're live on the air. What's up?
How you doing? I enjoy the show. Thank you very much. And I had 3 quick comments. One, I wanted to know if you could ask supporters to tweet Tulsi Gabbard because she is from American Samoa, and the American Samoan caucus is tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's 6 or 8 delegates that could swing to Bernie Sanders.
Yep. I don't see anything wrong with that. You've already told them, folks. Listen to them. Go ahead.
So the other two questions I had were with regards to your last topic, as listed on the
on the title
webcast.
What is it?
Is HRC, and the first one is, how do you think there was an article in Real Clear Politics yesterday or today about how FBI Director Comey is probably going to strategically time pushing forward with the indictment on Hillary Clinton, and how that plays into electability, because we've only talked about electability with regards to polls,
heads up,
numbers.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about it with regards to if a former Deputy Attorney General of George W. Bush is going to be the FBI director and has, a strong case to make to current AG Lynch about indictments. He'll probably time that for September or October.
Let me, what was your source on that? What did you say? Real Clear Politics?
Real Clear Politics,
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read that article, and so I don't know the reason they would believe that. But I would say there's always an October surprise. And so that would be one hell of a surprise. There is the problem of trustworthiness. Most people do not trust Hillary Clinton, and that is just reflected in the polls, right? That's not something I'm saying as a qualitative statement. That is a quantitative statement. People don't trust her. And so something like that, it's twofold, right? Some of that distrust is already baked into the system. If 67% of the people don't trust you, the email situation is not going to make them trust you any less. They already don't trust you. But then there's the other percentage on top of that really could be pushed over the edge and say that, okay, now I have no more trust for her. So the question is, if she's still in the front running with 67% of the Americans not trusting her, then how much will that pull her down? Well, I would say enough to get beat. Enough to get beat in the general election, because she's already being beat according to the polls. So it's not going to take a whole lot more for her to shave off. I think now, as of today, it's 2 points in the Quinnipiac poll for her lead over Donald Trump. It's not going to take much if these emails come out for that 2 points to be shaved off. So the short answer is, if this becomes an October surprise, Hillary Clinton loses, even more so than we're already predicting based on polling that she's going to lose. So that's that. What's your third question, man?
Yeah. So the third question is, you've talked a lot about the Bernie or Bust movement, and how, at least as far as it sounds like, you're willing to hold your nose and vote for Hillary if it comes to that. And I'm curious about the overt racism of the Trump campaign versus the whisper racism of Clinton's past campaign against Obama, where she leaked the Muslim garb photo, and she dropped the assassination comments about Obama relative to Robert Kennedy. And so I'm wondering how you feel about overt racism versus whisper racism. And my feeling is it's better the racist we know. We can get the racist we know out of office faster than the racist that a lot of people believe isn't so much of a racist. Yeah.
So, hey, thanks so much for the call. I definitely will answer that one. I want to grab this one more, and you can catch my answer on there. I have, listen, I like I've said from the beginning, I've never been Bernie or Bust. However, I'm still kind of a petty dude. I'm sorry. I'm kind of petty. And the more and more I see this petty shit being peddled to us by Team Hillary, the more and more I'm like, screw you guys, because we can, progressives can really stick it to you. And that's already reflective in the polls. So that's why I kind of stay out of the conversation, because I don't want to sully the water with my pettiness. What I will do is have a robust debate about it and allow someone who is pro Bernie or Bust and someone who is against Bernie or Bust for us to have a really rigorous conversation for you guys to, hear alternate sides. I have to keep my opinion out of it because I'm not the best person to ask on something like that. As lofty and ideal as I am, sometimes I like to stick people and get them back. So, God's going to have to help me with that. I'm still not a good person in that regard. All right, folks. Some great guests coming up on the show. I can't tell you who yet, but I just got a message from one of them on Twitter, and I'm going to definitely talk to her as soon as the show is over. Excited about that. Tim Canova is possibly coming on the air. He's already reached out. We've already connected. We're just trying to get our calendar straight. Also going to potentially have, there's a lot of great guests coming up. I have so many things to say, so many things to talk about. But tomorrow night, I'll be joined by some guest hosts, and we'll have a guest an interview tomorrow. But we'll also be covering the caucus and the Super Tuesday results. So we're probably going to do an extended show tomorrow. So just jump in wherever you can. Join the Progressive Army. Go to progressivearmy.com. Become a patron at patreon.com. Support the Benjamin Dixon Show. Help us grow this. And tonight is our biggest night ever on YouTube. So big ups to everyone on YouTube. I want you to click the subscribe button, click the like button. Make sure that you're following me. I don't ever want to have more. I have more people following me on Twitter than I have subscribers on YouTube. Let's fix that. Fix that tonight. Let's bring them in parity. Go ahead and click subscribe, like, share, all those other things. Progressivism is on the move. And we're going to be the tip of the spear over here at the Progressive Army. Folks, I think I am done. See you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.